Greetings, Facebook Live community. Here I am again, our Christian Minson, coming to you from Rythmia Life Advancement Center in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. Warm and sunny, and just awaiting people to show up. If you're joining the recording, always remember that we spend about the first 4 minutes or so just welcoming people. So if you want to just fast forward to about the 4-minute mark, you will be able to start with the content and avoid all of the chit chat. If you want to hear me chit chat, feel free to stay on through these 4 minutes. But Dave Powers, Sydney, Nanette, welcome, welcome. If anybody's joining on, say where you're from, give me thumbs up, give me a hi, hello. We're here. Greg, hey Greg, hi. Where are you located, Greg? Can't remember. Martin, hey. Brody, Marilyn. A lot of names I'm recalling, a lot of past guests from Rythmia here. I love it. Sydney from Nebraska, can't wait to escape the cold and come in April. Yeah, I've heard the cold in that area is close to -50 with wind chill and coldness. I don't know how people actually even live in that environment, but it is a lot warmer than that here in Costa Rica. So Sydney, you should get here before April. By April, it might actually be up to -30 in your area. So that's like a cakewalk, huh? Anyway, Greg, Minneapolis. Christina saying hi. Marilyn from Saskatchewan. Yeah, that's another freezing cold area. Sydney. So one of the it's not the main reason people come to Rythmia, but we do see a lot of Northern Americans and Canadians coming down this time of year just because it is so freaking cold up there and it is so nice and balmy here. I was just joking with somebody today. I rarely get to sit out by the pool and all that, but you can basically get a tan walking from your room to the kitchen, and that is the truth. Let's see, Sydney, -24, yeah, geez. It's Barry, yeah, the mouth breather from there 2 weeks ago. Excellent, Barry, good to see you. Yeah, Sydney, you hate it, I hate it too, that's why I'm here. Amanda's in Denver, Gord joined, Gokhan, I hope I said that right. Brody, give me a heart, excellent. Love you too there, man. -60 in Minneapolis the other day. Yeah, so that's even colder than -50. Jeez, Manies. Maryland, cold hands, warm heart. Leaf, hi from Denmark. Leaf, what's the temperature in Denmark now? I used to live in Norway, and even though Norway is a northern country, it rarely got as cold as, say, Minneapolis or Saskatchewan or any of those places because there's this North Sea current that would temper the cold. And it still get cold, don't doubt it. And the winters were long, but not nearly as cold as those sort of tundra spaces in our middle Americas. West Hampton Beach, 14 Fahrenheit, yeah. 14? Yeah, I guess that's what it said. And Gord, hi from Ontario, another coldish place. See if I got some glasses. I do not. All right, well, that's welcome everybody. Our Christian Minson here, your catalyst for transformation and evolution. I am coming to you live from Rythmia Life Advancement Center in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, where it is a balmy, I'd say about 31 degrees Celsius, more like 90-ish degrees Fahrenheit. Come on down if you want the warm weather, but more, come on down if you're wanting the transformational experience of a lifetime. I am the director of the Breathwork program here for the last year and going on a half. I am a certified transformational breath facilitator, senior trainer with the Transformational Breath Foundation, speaker, author, contributing author to the book Align, Expand, and Succeed, Shifting the Paradigm of Entrepreneurial Success, about merging consciousness and business. I am an expert in the field of consciousness, spiritual development. I was a monk for 10 years of my life, And now, as I said, I'm applying all the skills that I've got here at Rythmia Life Advancement Center, and I'm so happy I'm here, and so happy to meet all of you, many of you who are on this call this week, many of you who will be here to meet me. Definitely show up and tell me that you are here, that you saw me on this, and give me a tidbit of information that you felt like either got you there or really hit you well in this whole, in all the things that I have to say here. One of the Facebook Lives that was especially poignant for you. So today we are talking about reacting versus responding. And this is an important topic because it deals directly with conflict in our lives. And who has never had conflict in their lives? I should more or less say who has conflict in their lives, who has conflict on their lives on a daily basis. Conflict is a natural part of life, and it's not something that we need to necessarily shy away from. In fact, this topic was important to me because that's how I used to deal with conflict. Just kind of avoid it, skirt around the edges. But, an avoided conflict never just goes away. It just continues to fester until it finally blows up and you find yourself in a worse conflict. So it's really important to understand how we deal with conflict and how we can deal with it more productively. And so this is what we're talking about today. Reacting, which is more or less an unproductive way to deal with conflict, versus responding, which is how to deal with conflict in a more productive and helpful manner, and use the conflict. Conflict is just a call for change in life, for an understanding. For conflict can really actually bring people closer together, whether that's a personal relationship like a girlfriend and boyfriend, husband and wife, whether it's a work relationship with your boss, with your colleagues, with your subordinates, whether it's with friends, whether it's at school. Conflict is really just a call for people with differing opinions to come together and see each other's point of view or come to a different sense of understanding. So with that, let me just check out what people are saying. Was helping somebody with a flat tire. Holy cow, in that minus 60-degree weather, helping somebody with a flat tire. I don't know how you could even get the lug nut undone. What's the matter with me? Yeah, exactly. Fine, you caught you live again. Great, Debbie Garcia. She does a Facebook Live regularly. Spirituality Gone Wild. You might check her out. She's interviewed me before. Beautiful soul. Christoph Bieler. Hi from Switzerland. What's the temperature in Switzerland? Okay, so back to reacting versus responding. So let's set the context here. We talked about why it's important. What are we really talking about? The essence of this is around conflict. And when we're in conflict, usually we get emotionally upset. And most of the time, when we're emotionally upset, that is an indication that we're in memory recall. If you think about the word react, all right, and you split it in two, react, you know what that means? Re, to do again, act again, to act again like you acted before. So in other words, a reaction is a recollection, a memory recall of a time when you had a similar kind of conflict, and you overlay the experience of that past conflict on your current conflict, and then you act again. You act like you did in that previous conflict that might have been similar, but the circumstances have changed. You're in conflict with somebody else. The subject matter is different. The context, the scene is different. And so it really calls for you to be present to the scene, to the present moment. But when we react, we're actually taking the past and overlaying it on the present situation. So it's like we're engaging with the present situation with a filter. So here I am, I no longer see you. All I see is on this surface what I remember about the past. And I dare say most of the time how we acted in the past was not the highest. Definitely, it was way in the past, often like when we were in childhood and stuff. We didn't have the intelligence, we didn't have the skills, we didn't have the understanding that we now have, which could help us in these situations. Okay, just checking in. Gord says, it's weird how and when conflict enters into your life. Sometimes none at all, sometimes intermittently, and sometimes it pours in all at once. Yep, that's I have to say that's true in my life as well. So one of the ways that we can, look at conflict is to see that the person that we're in conflict is just a messenger. And one of my favorite books, which takes you on a journey of self-discovery, called The Presence Process by Michael Brown. Michael Brown calls these messengers mess enders. You know, he often plays with words, and so messenger becomes a mess ender, meaning that the person comes to deliver a message that there's some mess in your consciousness that needs ending, that needs to be worked out, and therefore here you are now in this conflict to help you realize that and help you up-level your consciousness, get to the next level and move on. Move on in evolution, move on in your transformation, move on ultimately in your happiness and your ability to enjoy life on all levels. So, you know, another way to look at this is that we don't blame the mail carrier for the bills you get in the mail, right? So when you're in conflict with somebody and they trigger something within you, remember that they are essentially the mail delivery. You know, what they're delivering you may be a bill, and you're not too happy about that. But you know, as they say, don't kill the messenger. Like back in Roman times, the messenger would come and deliver bad news and off with his head. He had nothing to do with it, but unfortunately, the bearer of bad tidings got the brunt of the monarch's ill feelings. So we don't want to be that way. We don't. The messenger is an innocent party for the most part when we're talking about our reactions. Now there are, you know, when we are in conflict with somebody, it doesn't mean that, you know, all the blame goes on us. But we're looking at, we want to be sure that we're dealing with the person in front of us, not somebody from our past. So that person, when they stimulate a reaction, they are a messenger. They are a messenger to end the mess of that conflict that you've had with you for some time, so you can learn to deal with things on a higher level. If you're getting what I'm saying, if it's making sense to you, give me some thumbs up, give me some hearts, and Gord is saying, hoping that when conflict comes in pouring all at once, it means that something good is coming. Laugh out loud. And yeah, well, you can generally think it, you know, if you think about it in terms of this messenger thing, that conflict's coming in to help you, you know, to really push the point. They say that, you know, God first whispers to us, you know, hey, you need to change. Then he starts to use a louder voice. Hey, you know, pay attention, get with the program. And then if you don't get it, he starts to slap you around. And then if you don't get it, he pushes you in front of a bus. And so you get hit and, you know, you finally wake up. So in some ways, when conflict comes all at once, it may mean that we haven't been getting it in those smaller doses, and it's time to wake up. All saying that it's the good news. If we take it in the right perspective, conflict is the good news. It means that we're really searching for a deeper better way to operate in life. So welcome to those who just joined. Another way to look at this is that when we are in reaction mode, we're dealing with reflections and projections. All right, so reflections are an experience that reminds us of something in the past. So we have a conflict going on in the present moment, and it stimulates your memory of a conflict in the past. Let's say, let me just say that is a reflection. All right, so we're reflecting that past experience onto the present moment. And then the projection then is the behavior that we adopt when we react to such a memory. So so here's the example I wanted to be. You know, your boyfriend or girlfriend is leaving for the weekend, and this, you know, the reflection of that reminds you of a time when your parents left you, when you were a teenager, maybe even a toddler, and you felt abandoned, and you know, you cried, you screamed, you did everything to get them to stay, but it didn't work. Now, you know, a couple decades later, your boyfriend or girlfriend is leaving for the week, and so the reflection is you're reflecting back on that time with your parents. All right. The projection then is that you exhibit the same behavior that you did way back then. So you scream at him or her. You're crying. You're like, you're abandoning me. You know, when you know, maybe they're going away for a work thing, or you know, something that's fairly innocuous that doesn't really deserve this, you know, this kind of reaction. But this is the projection, all right, that you're projecting the behavior from the past onto the current situation. So then we're really getting into now that reacting versus responding. Reacting is like killing the messenger. We said we don't want to kill the messenger. Reacting is throwing the messenger under the bus. That person in front of you has now stimulated this old memory to come forward, and you're overlaying it on that person, and you're just giving them the brunt of all your anger, all of your fears, all of that, and you know, it's like making them responsible for what you've experienced in the past. This is really going into your old patterns. It's unconscious. You're really not conscious of what's going on in this moment. It's outward directed. You know, we create this drama then in an attempt to sedate or control the situation. You know, we want to feel in control of it. So often we'll bring up this reaction so we can try to feel like we're in control. But we ultimately do something about what we think is happening to us. All right, this is a very important point, because this is victim mentality. We feel that we are the victim of some situation, of somebody perpetrating their will onto us, and we you know, we feel the victim, and therefore we feel like we have to defend. We have to you know, we have to fight back against their evil. So on the flip side is responding. Responding is the theme of responding is responsibility. Now think about that. Responsibility, respondability, the ability to respond, which means that we first of all see our part in the drama, that it's not just them, you know, perpetrating some crime onto us, but that, as the old cliche goes, it takes two to tango, right? It takes two to be in conflict, and rarely, if ever, is only one person responsible for the conflict. There's something going on, and what's interesting is this is often going on simultaneously. So not only are you triggering, or not only are they triggering you, but you're triggering them, and that can get really complex because now we've got two people not seeing each other at all, fighting with two situations in the past, and nobody's getting anywhere because there's no reference to the present moment. So responding really is the ability to respond. Responsibility is the ability to respond, unconditionally feeling the emotional state that's within us. In a response, it's not so much a doing, but a being with. We want to be with our feelings, and it's important to understand that this does not mean that we take the blame. So in the moment of in where we feel violated or we feel put upon or such, that we feel our feelings, but we don't just react like have to fight back. But that doesn't mean that we are necessarily responsible or to blame. You need to assess the situation though, and come to that determination yourself. Marina, hello, how you doing? So it's important that we take that moment to see that we're caught in an old pattern of reaction that we're playing out over and over, and it's based on something that's happened to us in the past. And this reaction continues to cause us stress and pain in our lives. It's ultimately a realization that we have a choice. We have a choice to continue to play this old record over and over again, and it will continue to create pain and discomfort in our lives, or we have the choice to let that energy go and learn a new way of acting. So how do we do this? How do we learn how to respond versus react? And this is what I'd like to get into next. So there's a step-by-step process, and most of what I'm taking from today is from a class I used to teach on this presence process by Michael Brown. Really, really valuable stuff. The first point in creating a response rather than a reaction is to take your attention off the messenger. So the first thing, means the person or the physical event that's triggering you. So you recognize that at first you just remove yourself from that person. Then you step away from the story that's urging you into reaction. All right, so you recognize that there's a story coming forward. The boyfriend's leaving. Your story is, my parents are leaving. They're abandoning me. I'm bad, or they shouldn't be doing this or whatever. And so the story is trying to say now, my boyfriend or girlfriend is abandoning me. So you recognize that that's coming up, and you step back from that. Then you focus on placing your attention on how you feel as a consequence of this event. So responding then is really all about feeling. It's not about doing necessarily, it's about feeling. Sometimes you do need to do something, like once you assess the actual situation, maybe there's some steps you need to take to rectify it. But to get into the space of responding, you need to sit there and feel what's going on for you. All right. Now should say that this talk is really based on the idea of us being in a reactive being in general. If you've gotten beyond the reactive phase, then there's really something to start looking at in the response. You know, sometimes you are dealing with a jerk or somebody who needs, you know, or a relationship that you would be better off not being in, or somebody you need to, excuse me again, disengage with. But right now we're really talking about when you feel this energy of reactivity based on something that's going on in your past, that you recognize exactly what it is, that it is this energy coming from the past, and that you have the opportunity to change that, to transform that, turn it into a response. And largely it's to, you know, to recognize that the person is a messenger, to step away from your story and allow yourself just to feel. So when you're in that feeling state, you want to ask yourself a few questions. First of all, how does this triggering impact me on the level of felt perception? In other words, how is this making me feel? Am I angry? Am I fearful? You know, in the example where, you know, the boyfriend or girlfriend's leaving and you're feeling abandoned, that may stimulate anger. That may stimulate fear. That may stimulate anxiety, you know, or depression, whatever it is, or, you know, often a combination of these feelings. Allow yourself to really tune in and understand what it's making you feel. This means going into the discomfort and sitting with it. Honor it. Know that this was a valid feeling at one point. When you feel this way, it's often a result of some unintegrated emotion from the past. So the next step to ask is, when before this did I feel similar? So in other words, we may not have gotten a clear understanding. You're in this situation with your boyfriend or girlfriend, they're leaving for the weekend, you're feeling abandoned, but you don't yet realize making the connection with the past. So you ask yourself, when did I feel this last? When did I last feel this way? You think back and it's like, oh, you know, in high school there was a field trip going on and everybody left without me, and I had this similar feeling. All right, so it's like, okay, there's this. Then you ask yourself again, when before that did I feel this similar feeling? You keep asking that, and you keep getting an understanding until you get as far back as you can, until you get to the original seed experience that caused this in the first place. You get back to that time when your mother abandoned you as a toddler and you felt upset. So the important points here, let me just see if Marina says, I'm so reactive, a terrible feeling. And that, it's true. It's really, the reactivity is a terrible feeling because it's usually a feeling, like I said, that's been unintegrated. And this is the process of integrating it. When you finally get to that root cause, that root experience, then the idea is to breathe on that. You're in the midst of that feeling, you go into a mini breath session, meaning you're feeling your feelings and you're breathing into them in this full, free-flowing manner that I've talked about in many of the Facebook Lives before. And if you don't know the technique yet, look up the title. I can't remember the title right offhand, but it will, I think the one that I just did last week, I think Just Breathe, I go over the technique. And there's others that I've gone through. Just for the sake, a nice full breath, free, nice and relaxed and flowing, meaning you breathe in this connected breath pattern. And for this, I'll just say either through the nose or through the mouth. The mouth is going to be more powerful, but you can breathe through the nose if you want. And you just breathe with your feelings. You let the feelings be there, all right? You don't try to push them away. You don't try to stamp them out. You let them be there on the surface, but you keep breathing with them. In fact, you express the feeling on the exhale, and then you take another inhale to help usher them along. Then you express them on the exhale, take another inhale to usher them along. In and out, in and out. Celeste, give me a little rainbow. Beautiful. Nice to see you. This may be a subject you want to go back and see the whole thing on. So as we're with those feelings, we continue to breathe with them until they finally integrate, which means that they pass out of our system, that we, then we have the space, the capacity for new feelings to be present. That's when you can go back into the conflict and then engage from a responsive sort of place. Once you've actually released those feelings, so I should have said, really, in the conflict, when you're in there, when you find yourself reacting, we say, essentially said, distance yourself from the messenger and the message, but that often means removing yourself temporarily from the conflict. So there's nothing wrong with saying, we need a timeout, I need 10 minutes, I need an hour, I need half a day, whatever. But always make a plan to get back together and finish the conflict. Just don't engage as long as you're in this reactive space. Okay, so you take that time, you breathe through it, you clear out those emotions, then you've got this space to consider the present moment situation. All right, who's the person you're actually dealing with? Are they the person from the past? No. They're a completely unique and different individual with unique and different needs, unique and different shortcomings. So how are you going to deal with them specifically? What is the context of your conflict? Is it like the past? No, it's different. There's a unique and different situation. How are you, how can you find ways to navigate this situation in a harmonious way that's going to support you both? And so on and so forth. So you can re-engage in that conflict now from a space of, how am I really going to deal with this actual situation versus how am I going to win this conflict that I've continually carried with me over the last decade or 10. Well, I guess not 10 decades, but let's say 3 or 4 or 5 is quite common. Preach it, Christian. Thanks. John, we must go meet our Christian Minson. Yes, Maura, do come meet me here at Rythmia Life Advancement Center or otherwise. It's the important points here then I want to bring up, and of course if you have any questions, I've got some time to answer anything that you'd like to ask about this subject. So let's just say it's your choice to really respond rather than react. All right, so that you got to recognize that you've always got a choice. A reaction, a conflict never has only one way to deal with it. You've always got multiple ways that you could bring that about. Let's see. Can't wait. Linda Young, breathing exercises are so powerful. Thank you, Christian, for your love and guidance during the breath ceremonies at Rythmia. Yeah, and that's a good plug to say that, if you want to understand this breath technique more, come to Rythmia or get on my mailing list. You can go friend me on Facebook at our Christian Minson. Always, of course, when you do that, attach a note that says you saw me on Facebook Live, and if you want to get on my mailing list, you can include your email address and where you're from, and I'll put you in there. But come to Rythmia, and this is, you get an intensive experience of not only breathwork but of plant medicine too, both helping you to uncover these past situations that you may not be conscious of, but then they come to life and you have an opportunity to move through them. Aaron, I did this yesterday when a 10 sphere came up and was so debilitating intense. I had to remember not to reject the fear, but to say, okay, it's there, but I will always be supported. I went into breath work. Breath work brought up the ego's anxieties and try to get me to stop, because not only was there fear, now there was a strange feeling in the body from big breaths. Key was to tell myself that the breath will not hurt me, will support me. Excellent there. This helped me get through the fear and the full breathwork session, including the anxieties. Many good insights came from it. In the end, I curbed the reaction. Aaron, that's amazing, and that's exactly how I would instruct anybody, is to remember when we're doing breathing, all sorts of interesting sensations physically, emotionally can come up, and they can feel overwhelming, but you've got to remember somewhere in the back of your mind, just like Aaron did, that all I'm doing is breathing. Breathing will not hurt you. Breathing, nobody has ever died from breathing. Quite the contrary. People die from not breathing all the time. But as long as you're breathing, you're going to be safe. That being said, I generally wouldn't recommend people going into a longer, like 45 minutes or hour-long session all by yourself, unless you are really comfortable with whatever can come up. And like in Aaron's case, you're able to tell yourself that all I'm doing is breathing, and you can move through those sensations until you get to the other side. I do recommend that before you really do that you go try to find somebody who facilitates this kind of work, a professional like myself that's in your area. You might look up breathwork. Again, if you get on my mailing list and all that, you can ask me questions. I could try to direct you to somebody. Of course, come to Rythmia. That's how you're going to get the best exposure. Find somebody who's either giving individual sessions or doing group type of sessions. I'd give sessions online, so you can inquire about those. But when you're with somebody that knows what they're doing, they can guide you through these times of emotional or physical tumult and get you to the other side, where you might get a little too apprehensive and then abandon your process, which is about the worst thing you could do, because then you're in the middle of all that energy and you've extracted yourself out of it before you've brought it to completion. So that's the only danger with that. I don't want you don't want you to give up on the process because you feel like it's too scary or it hurts. Sometimes it may be temporarily scary or challenging physically or emotionally, but that's because you're bringing up the energy as it's on its way out. So you're just re-experiencing that energy as it's on its way out. You've got to finish the process so you can bring it out. If you bring it to your consciousness and then you stop, now it's just swirling in your consciousness, okay? You've got to continue until you bring it out. And if you're not prepared to do that by yourself, do that with a professional, or come to a place like Rythmia and make that happen. Robert, Bruce, best breath work ever at Rythmia. All right, Robert, you're one of our biggest fans here. What a great guy, too. Was here recently. So thanks for that praise. Kat, how do you deal with the residual of anxiety that creeps through while doing breath exercises? Well, this is what we just talked about, Kat. Got to keep it going until it moves. I often say that our emotional states are like weather patterns, all right? So you got anxiety or stress or fear. It's like a rain cloud, right? So rain comes in, it starts raining, it's dark, it's ugly, thunder and lightning. That rain doesn't last forever, does it? It might last 30 minutes. It might last a day. It might last a whole week, or if you live in Seattle, maybe 3 months. But that rain never lasts forever. Eventually it moves on, and a new weather pattern takes its place. All right, the sun comes out, or now it's windy, or it starts to snow, or something like that. So just like that, our feelings continue to move on as long as we don't put up a block. Sorry, my thing is like reverse. So whenever I'm holding up my hands, I never know which way I'm going. So if you come in, if the weather pattern is coming in, or the emotional pattern now is coming in, and we stop it, we say, no, I don't want that to happen. Now it just recirculates here in our consciousness. So you'll feel anxious and tense and anxious and tense. And then we try to squish it down and we hold it down in our physical field, but it's still swirling around there, and then it leaks out in different ways. I often quote the psychotherapist Sigmund Freud as saying, unexpressed emotions never die, they just reemerge in darker and uglier ways. So that's all to say. As long as we're holding that emotion down there, it's not like we've gotten rid of it, which we pretend like we've gotten rid of it because now we didn't express it, but it's going to leak out, or we're going to hold more and more down until finally it explodes. And that's often the case with anger or severe depression or something. We've been holding on to sadness and sadness and sadness and sadness until finally it explodes into severe depression. Or we're holding on to little angers until finally it explodes into a big angry outburst. And usually those explosions are not pretty and pretty volatile and can be very dangerous to yourself and dangerous to others around you. You know, we see in the news some of the dramatic consequences of people who finally exploded in anger and then and then suffered severe consequences, or those around them ended up suffering severe consequences, including death. So hopefully you see that. The residual, it means that you haven't played it out yet. You've got to just keep working with the process until that emotion moves along, and you replace it with, usually after it moves, what comes in to replace it is peace, tranquility, a sense of well-being, even a blissful sense can happen. John Scott is on. Hey there, sir. See you later, Dave. Any tips before we come? Sydney, I would say read all of the literature that we send you by email. If you have not received any literature by email, if you're signed up, basically sign up to come, you will get all this literature, and watch the videos, pay attention to what we tell you to do. Like, you know, there's a diet plan, there's ways to behave and modify your life so that when you come, you get the best results out of it. I'd also say, as much as you can, watch these Facebook Lives from myself, from Dr. Jeff, from Jerry. Watch the I Got My Miracle every week, which are interviews with people who have been here throughout the week and they got what they came for, so you can get a sense of the ups and downs that people go through, but you know, the finish line prize that just about everybody gets as they come here, so that you're well prepared for understanding that coming here isn't a cakewalk. You know, you're not here to sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais and, you know, have somebody fan you with a palm leaf and all that, you know, to feel ultra comfortable. You're here basically to go back a changed person, to be a better person than you were when you arrived. And to do that, sometimes it requires diving deep into your crap, you know, deep into the muck that you've been carrying with you. Again, those unexpressed feelings, those experiences from the past that we keep bringing forward that are our reactions, you know, acting again. So when we can go into that muck, clear that stuff out, now it's like we've erased our memory banks from that. And when a situation arises, we reach back there to react and we can't find anything. And we're like, oh, you know, I have to now be present to this situation. Who am I dealing with? What is this situation? How can I best manage this? And that, of course, is, you know, what we're striving for, is really to be present to our everyday life so that we can get the most out of it. We can learn to navigate it in the most harmonious way. Aaron, what was interesting is that the tingly feeling turned into this great feeling of a battery charging up instead of something to fight. The mantra helped me to switch perspective. So Erin's talking about when she was doing her breath work and she went into this anxiety and stuff like that. But, you know, and the tingly feeling that she's feeling at first that maybe was uncomfortable felt then like it was charging her battery. And instead of something to fight, you know, let yourself be charged by that. The mantra helped me to switch the perspective. If fear is in the body from something, it can tent. If fear is in the body from something, it can tent everything else, including the feeling of power in your body when you fill it with breath. Yeah. So I feel like any emotion that we're holding on to is draining our battery. It requires energy to hold down. You know, emotions are, if you look at the word emotion, E stands for energy and motion. Energy and motion. Emotions are just energy and motion. They begin within us, their emotional thrust, their motion is to come out of us, to be expressed. If we hold on to that, there's still energy and motion. They're like continuing to want to move. If we don't want that movement and get agitated by it, we've got to hold that energy in place with a tremendous amount of energy of our own. This is taxing on the body. This is taxing on our emotions. This drains our battery. So if you're doing this a lot, and most of us are, and some of us have been doing it, you know, since we were 5 years old, and now you're 30, 40, 50. Just think all those years of holding on to that emotion, and you wonder why you wake up every morning and just feel so tired you don't want to face the day, or why everything you do feels like such a chore, why you don't have any energy to go out at night and have fun. It's because you're spending all your energy holding on to this crap. Wouldn't you rather just let it go, let that come up and finally get out, and then you've got all that energy free to focus on ideally your nobler ambitions. And I addressed this a little bit in one of my Facebook Lives called The 3 Stages of Healing. But it's called The 3 Stages of Healing, where I talk about coping, healing, and thriving. The 3 stages of transformation, it may be. Whatever it is, the 3 stages of something. So go look that up, and you'll get a lot out of that. But great insight there, Aaron. I appreciate those kind of shares. So Susan says, I feel the muck can mess with your immune system and cause so many issues, physical and mental. Right on target there, Susan. Because, you know, we are taking our life force energy, which, you know, if it's not holding on to this stuff, it's boosting our immune system. It's boosting our sympathetic nervous system. It's boosting our mental capacities. Now we have to take energy from these places to hold down this, all this emotional garbage. And if we do that long enough, it can create physical disabilities and disharmony. It can create mental disharmonies. And this is largely what's going on when people are suffering from severe depressions or chronic anxieties or chronic pain, you know, shoulder pain, back pain, whatever. Often it's because of all of this unintegrated emotional energy, which we're having to divert all of our natural resources to trying to deal with, and it's causing us then to be deficient in some of these areas, which causes these chronic conditions. Again, one of the great things about Rythmia here is that in 1 week's time, you can dive into so much of this crap and release it that you go back a completely changed person. This is what we call the miracle. This is why people continue to claim that they get miracles as they come here. A 93% miracle rate we're boasting since the inception of this place. It means 93 out of 100 people come here, get this massive transformation. And then there's a 97% satisfaction rate, meaning even 4% more who didn't necessarily get their miracle realize that this experience has somehow changed their lives for the positive. And they'll usually get it on the second time around. And then the 3% that don't get it usually come back again and get it the second time. So it's higher odds than you'll ever get in any kind of gambling venture, I'll give you that much. And even in well-calculated ventures, there's rarely a success rate that is that high. So you owe it to yourself, if you feel like you're suffering from any of these things, to really check out the program here And as we said, watch these Facebook Lives, go on TripAdvisor and just read the case after case testimonials from people. We have the highest amount of rated positive testimonials. In fact, on TripAdvisor, Rythmia is rated #1 in the entire world. The #1 hotel. I mean, we're classified as a hotel. We're actually a combination between a hotel, retreat, medical facility. But we're rated #1 in the entire world. That means we beat the Four Seasons. We beat that big old sailboat building that they have in Dubai. You know, these are classy places, but they don't get #1 because they give you a beautiful vacation, but they don't give you something that changes your life forever. And that's what we give you here at Rythmia. And you know, I'm speaking here. I'm obviously employed here at Rythmia, but I've been, as I mentioned in the beginning, I've been a breath worker. I've been in the field of transformation for 12 years as a breath worker and 10 years as a monk before that. And I've worked programs that have great success with people, but I've never seen something that has really sort of cracked the code, you might say. We sometimes joke that we are a soul factory. People come in and they regain their soul and they go out and live new, changed lives. And we do this week after week for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 people a week are coming through this place. And we pump them out like soul crackers. So if you want your soul back, if you want a new lease on life, and you're ready for some intensive work to do it in 1 week's time, come to this place. At least you can call the number and start to talk to somebody. They'll give you all to answer your questions and stuff. And of course, that's what I'm here to do on these Facebook Lives, is answer questions for you as well. And Hadia is saying, in just 1 week, yes, I can testify. So, you know, people who are here, you want to look back and scroll through the names of people. You can kind of get a sense by their comments if they've been here before. You could ask them later. I'm sure most of them would be happy. If you're a new person on here thinking about it, you could ask one of those people who made a comment on this Facebook live chat bar. It's over on this side on my screen anyway. You can ask them, you know, give me the real dirt, all right? And, you know, I know Christian works there and he's giving it all the praise, but what really happens? But I guarantee you they're going to tell you the same thing. So I'm not afraid of you asking anybody. Angel, how do you back? Karen, my week there was transformative and unfolding. Yep. Life continues to amaze me. Beautiful. Only vacation I want to take. That's what Gord says. John Scott, looking forward to going back. Kevin Peterson joined. He's been here before. Linda Young Thomas, if you are considering going, just do it. It will be one of the most life-changing weeks of your life. I was just there January 13th through 20th and missed it already. Yeah, Linda's been here a couple times too. And, you know, I think as we talked, it was even better the second time. Angela's so excited. Beautiful Wayne says hi to Angel. Philip coming on March 30th. Excellent, man. Angel says hi back to Wayne. Hadia is coming back with her kids, and that's what often happens too. Celeste got her soul back, and amazing, you know, it's amazing life-changing things that are happening here. So as you can see, a lot of people, Kevin Peterson says he's coming back. So in these last comments, you get a big sense of who's here, and I'm sure any of them would be happy to testify to you if you had any personal questions to pose to them, like, is it really as good as he's telling us all it is? Aaron, thank you for this talk today. My week was wonderful and difficult. As Karen said, it all continues to unfold. Susan, I went to experience osteopath 37 years in practice, and she told me I did not breathe correctly. Never knew this. I apparently hold my breath a lot, not deep enough. Never been a smoker. I assume anxiety. Now that you're mentioning it, I'll have to look into it more. Yeah. So look back at some of my Facebook Lives. Being a breath worker, all of them usually end up talking about the breath at near the end, if not all the way through. But you'll see some of the titles that will specifically interest you about breath, like last week's Just Breathe, Susan. So start to watch some of those and you'll get a good sense. And if you want somebody to help you breathe, one, if you can't come to Rythmia right away, contact me on Facebook Live. We could do some sessions by Skype, which will get you breathing better even after just one session. So it really is powerful, and breath, the way we breathe, can change our lives. In short, our breath pattern is directly linked to the emotions that we feel. If we're breathing improperly, we stimulate negative emotions. If we start breathing properly, we stimulate positive emotions, which allows us to, on a daily, moment by moment basis, feel better, rather than moment by moment feeling anxious or tense or worried or depressed during the day. So with that, I'm going to have to bring, Kevin, your wife's there now. Who's your wife? I think she introduced me this week, but I've forgotten since then. Let me know, and I'll say hi to her for you once again. Just not that you're probably talking every day or something, but Sherry, where are you at? We're in Costa Rica, Guanacaste, Costa Rica, the northwestern corner, the Pacific side of Costa Rica. Really nice, warm, dry area. We're in the dry season right now, so we won't see rain again until May, just about. So if you're just wanting nice, sunny, warm, balmy weather, good ocean, we're a mile from the ocean. It's an amazing place. So with that, this brings my my talk to an end. I just want to end by just posing to you, what if you were to take this to heart, to start practicing this idea of recognizing that you might be reacting and just giving yourself a little space to see, to disassociate from the messenger, to disassociate from your reactive tendencies, give yourself a little breathing room to clear that emotion, and then come back to the table, from that clear and open space. What would your conflicts be like? How do you think your conflicts will evolve from there? And then again, not only your conflicts, but how will that impact and send shockwaves through all your relationships? And my prediction is that you'll find your relationships get better, your relationships get deeper, your relationships are filled with more respect, and that you begin to less and less fear your conflict and actually more and more welcome it, because each conflict will help bring you to a deeper place in your relationship rather than break you further apart. So with that, I want to say namaste to all of you. R. Christian Minson, signing off. If you want to friend me on Facebook, just remember to add a note so I know where you came from. Otherwise, it's likely I won't friend you for a long time. So with that, namaste. Take care.